Crazy talk. Perfect. Hi, everybody. Oh, it's glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. It's been a blast so far here. My first time. It's been long, and it's not been raining, which has been great. So I'm more of a rain-based person. Got a little bit of it the other day. I was excited about that. But here, go ahead and do it. Do a little intro here for you guys. So my name is Mercer. I'm a voice actor from Los Angeles, California. Work a lot in video games and cartoons and other sorts of nerdiness on the internet. Also do, I just Mercer for a show called Critical Role. Also we got there in front. So yeah, I've been working in this industry for professionally going on 9 years as far as like a full-time gig. And it's definitely been its own journey from very, very meager means to slightly less meager means. But it's been an experience nonetheless. So I grew up a huge geek, a huge nerd, and heavily invested in video games and cartoons and board games and all that kind of stuff. Tabletop gaming. And as I got older and got to theater, performing arts, doing stage productions, I eventually found both of my passions to find a way to merge. And so this was kind of the best way for me to do that. It was, and is, ever perpetually a curious experience, so I'm glad to talk, me the opportunity to come out here and visit and talk to you guys. So this panel in particular is more themed about doing voiceover for cartoons and anime, but it's also a general Q&A as well, so don't feel shy if you have any questions. It doesn't necessarily fit exactly into that realm. We're all here just hanging out anyway. So for the format of this, I'll call for questions at some points throughout the panel, and if I call you, just go ahead and with your best, clearest voice, ask your question, and hopefully I'll have means of answering it. But yes, so that being the case, let us begin with the first round of questions. Oh, all right, eager.
I only got two. First one is, when is Excel World Season 2 coming out? And second, what was it like being Tony Stark in Iron Man vs. Technovar?
Okay, I missed part of the first question.
Excel World.
Oh, Excel World? I have no idea when that's coming out. The actors will, I don't know when Titan Season 2 is coming out. They don't let us know anything. As the actors, we're the last to be notified. I'm gonna call like, oh, by the way, we need to come in next week to report on this thing. Oh, by the way, this thing's happening. And you're like, oh, okay. So, unfortunately, we're the last bastion of information of any sort when it comes to release dates. So, hey, I cannot comment. As far as portraying Tony Stark, that was amazing. I was a Marvel kid through and through. I grew up reading all the Marvel comics. Not as big as DC. I'm a big fan of the Gotham aspect, the Gotham City area in DC. That's about it in DC. Sorry, DC. Yeah, so Tony Stark has always been just a great main character through all his unique arcs and such, and especially with the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, having the resurgence of appreciation for Iron Man, which I felt he wasn't one of the more front-runner characters for a long time in the universe. It's been cool to see him rise. So being able to step in those shoes is a huge honor, especially following up in a performance which I was afraid they were going to try and force me to do my best Robert Downey Jr. impression for the project. I was like, I do a terrible one. No. Thankfully, they let me just kind of do my own thing and keep the essence of the character, still do my own performance. So that was fun. Yeah, enjoyed it thoroughly, and he's a cool character. Who's the one had the opportunity to be Iron Man? Come on, it's great. Yeah, and then I got to recently do Captain America for a Netflix Avengers project. It was like, what was it called, Frostbite or something? It was like a Christmas special, like an Avengers Christmas special. Very unique. When they find out Santa is actually one of the other Norse deities, like you do. Hulk sings Jingle Bells. One of those.
That I gotta see.
No, it's a lot of fun. I got to be Captain America in that one. It was cool. So yeah, huge honor as a geek. Sir, you got a strong hand move. It's great. Keep up with that.
What would be your best advice for a GM in a role-playing?
Best advice for a GM in a role-playing game. So if you're running your own game in a tabletop setting, the best advice is let the players play. There's and not often, but there's a feeling that the rules in a system or within a book or a setting are very stringent and tight, and you have to adhere to the rules. And some folks like that, and that's cool if that's the thing of your game. But what really, in my opinion, makes tabletop gaming so unique and so interesting is the ability to bend and manipulate outside of what was planned, what was predestined, and allowing your players to explore out of even your own comfort zone as a GM. While it can be scary at times, those are where the real memories, the real stories come together between you and your friends that are playing. So, I mean, on a broad sense, just being open, as frightening as it can be at times, to just let them guide the story wherever the hell it's going to go. Let them try and do those weird things in your head. You're like, that's a really ridiculous and stupid idea. But let them try it. If they fail miserably, it's going to be a spectacular failure. You're going to tell stories about it. It's going to be great. And in the off chance that it possibly succeeds, that's going to be a spectacular success with a ridiculous story that makes no sense, but hey, it worked. So just let the players play. Don't be too stringent about that. But also make sure that everyone at the table is there to help each other have a good time. Occasionally, a player tends to hog the spotlight or tends to make it about himself and their experience as opposed to the communal game experience, and that can be, unless you let it know it's a competitive environment for gamers, which can be fun as long as everyone's aware that that's the circumstance. Other than that, it can be very toxic to the overall fun. And so just be open and converse with the player to the side afterward, and be open to have that communication of, hey man, maybe pull back a little bit, let other people have a chance to shine in the story, be respectful, the whole kind of, let everyone have some of the stage sensations. As a GM, you're in control of the world, you have that power, you have that center point, so don't be afraid to kind of keep everything in a cohesive, positive way.
Thank you.
No worries. I got a whole panel to answer, so good question. So, whose hand is it? You already had yours up in preparation.
You're probably going to ask this a lot, but Kill's like one of my favorite animes.
Kill.
How crazy it is. But what was your reaction to seeing Micro for the first time and what Kill was, and how you go about that?
So, when the auditions first went out for the series, when I auditioned for Akira Miyuki, I Googled him just to see the dog. That sounded weird. I Googled him to get a feeling for his character, his artwork, his persona, and image search. The first thing I saw was a multitude of shirtless glowing nipples. And I had no idea what I was already in for. So my first thought was, this is going to be different and fun. At the time, in particular, when that series came across, I've been playing a lot of characters that I enjoyed playing. They were all very kind of dark and badass, internalized, conflicted personalities, and it's a fun archetype. After a few, I want some change, I want some variety, and Aikoro gave me the opportunity to really kind of be a little more ridiculous, a little bit top, and scream new speech and talk about this, which is really anybody wants that life. So that was fun. That series, if you guys want to watch Kill, highly recommend it. It is silly. And then it's ridiculous. And then it gets more ridiculous. And then it gets ridiculous. And it gets more ridiculous. And you're like, wow, this is the most how could it, and it went even more ridiculous. It's incredible. I recommend it. Yes, it is. Alright, let's see if we can get passion over this side of the room. Anyone with a hand raised? Don't be shy. Maybe the voice is freaking out. Oh, yeah, on the way back corner.
I was wondering, what's your favorite NPC to play in Critical Role? And also, could you do the voice of Victor?
Alright. Trying to minimize the dance monkey things. A lot of people get to the point of like, hey, can you do this character for me? Oh, can you do this character for me? Try to keep that minimized. Not my way every now and then. But yeah, so Critical Role, those haven't seen it, I run a game in Dungeons & Dragons weekly on Twitch with a bunch of other voice actors, some of which you may have heard of projects of More Bailey, Travis Willingham, Liam O'Brien, Sam Riegel, Mercer, we're in her fine Ireland-made woolen piece of that. I like you guys are really good. That was a weird transition. it's hard for me to pick a favorite, because a lot of them, I create them so deftly over time, and I'm really attached to. I have to say, the one that I'm the most attached to emotionally would probably be Allura by Soren, who was this kind of very powerful female mage who was politically invested in the party's kind of world and sphere of influence, and she's a really, really cool character. It's a tough call between her and Gilmore. both wonderful. However, Victor, this character that you mentioned, we can give a quick story on it. One of our players, Percy, collected by Talos and Jaffe, he's a gunslinger, and he had to go acquire some black powder so he could continue to create his ammunition in the game. I was not prepared for this, and I had to come up with a spontaneous NPC to be converse about it, and thus was born Victor, this older, crotchety, gnarled, elderly, crazed black powder collector, manufacturer. I don't know how to describe him, but he's a fun character. He was very much kind of open the door like, yes, can I help you? You want black powder? Hey, come with me. This way. I'm going to walk me for the rest of my day. Nice problem. Good question. Next time. Oh, right here in the front, you sir.
You played Kanji in the Persona series.
Yeah, I did some
How did it feel stepping into like such an iconic role in such an iconic game?
Daunting. It's very daunting to get in. With any character that's already been established, especially a character that's already built a fan base and appreciation, you're always like worried that you're going to step into those shoes and be bombed from orbit. T2 version on the fence skeleton. So yeah, there's worry. I love the character already in much way established for Kanji, and being able to take as much of an homage to his performance as I could, and also make my own take was a unique acting challenge, and not send all the fans into a giant tizzy. But it's been a fun journey. It's been really cool. The character is a phenomenal character. So much fun to play, and get a little rage out. He's definitely a high energy character. Kanji can get kind of low key. He's thinking about things and trying to figure out what's going on around here. But then if you don't cross him the wrong way, he's going to be right up in your face, isn't he? Get better. That's great. I wasn't actually towards you guys. Just want to clarify. Kanji's your number. You shut up.
You mentioned GMing for, Dungeons and Dragons and all that kind of tabletop gaming, like not exclusively to Critical Role, even though I know that's the kind of most prolific one. Everybody has at least one, if not more, of those stories where like somebody has, as you said, spectacularly failed, and a whole goofy saga or story spawns from it. And I would just like to hear the goofiest kind of out there one you might have.
Oh, well, there's, the weirdest things that ever happened. We did a charity stream last year. It's online, you can find it, for Extra Life and helping with children's cancer charities. And we did, as part of the show, I ran a 3-hour one-shot with 3 of our players in Critical Role and 3 of people who've done a previous one-shot for the part of the Geeking Center Network. And so just running a one-shot for them, but the idea was if people donated a certain amount of money, they would get to suggest something for the game that would happen. This got out of hand very quickly. In my head, I was like, oh, well, they can suggest things like in the middle of the sequence throwing. And it started okay. Someone's like, you had this digital voice that would come through the text to speech thing, and in the middle of the scene, all of a sudden, it goes like, suddenly, a boy steps from the shadows and takes the box away and disappears. I'm like, okay. Suddenly, a boy appears from the shadows and grabs the item and runs into the darkness. I'm like, oh crap, I have to go find him. I'm like, hey, that's cool. They're pushing the story. That lasted about 10 minutes. Before it was like, okay. And so as you open the door, everyone is now level 10 and is an opposite sex and has wings. And What am I supposed to do with this? And so the internet definitely ran me through my paces as throughout the party, a nuclear bomb went off that gave them all the power to switch sexes. All their accents changed. At one point, he became a musical for 10 minutes. They saved a little girl who then became a boy monk, who then became higher level in the entire party. It got weird. Glorious is a word. Scarring is another. But that was something of a strange or GM experience as far as spectacular failures go. Spectacular successes, I'll make some really quick. There's a game called Rifts. I don't know if you're familiar with the Play universe. It was popular in the US in around the late 90s. It's a broken system. It's kind of like, imagine if the world all of a sudden kind of was overrun with magical ley lines and things got weird and it's every 13-year-old's favorite dream where they could be like a cyber ninja from Mars or like a psychic dolphin in the same party. What? That's Rifts. But the whole universe that the company played and made Rifts, they had all these source books for other licensed properties that all technically were in the same universe if the GM allowed it. They had the Macross license. So it was maybe Macross or Robotech. That technically could exist in your universe. Which meant that one of the ships in this game was the SDF-1 from Macross, which had this giant cannon that took 10 minutes to charge in the old anime. And it was the only weapon in the game that didn't have a numerical value of damage it dealt. Even like the biggest crazy lasers and the most powerful books out there was like, this did 1d4 times 10 million mega damage. That's Rift. This is the one can that said, damage destroys everything in its path. Everything. And the guy who was running the game for us in high school, it was his favorite game ever. He was like legitimately all on it. It was the best game ever. It was the most balanced game ever. Like, no, it's not, dude. It's pretty broken. And so to prove him this, we decided, since it was in the books, and he had told some of the books were legal, we were going to hunt down the Macross universe, SDF-1, and hijack it, which we managed to do. And he said, all right, what do you need to do now? Like, okay, this is another book you have, called Pantheon, that has all the various gods from the Hindu religion, from the Norse religion, stats for them. They're not supposed to be killable. They're stupid hit points. But it destroys everything in its path. So after we had wiped out about half the Norse Pantheon, he was like, alright, I'm done. This game's over. We're not playing anymore. So I probably went through that day. Sorry, nerd tangent. Hi. Question over here, perhaps. We'll go you there. Yes.
Alright. So it's kind of like a two-parter. First one is either for this question or any other question. You do the Victor voice. I'm guessing you asked that lots.
Do I get asked to do the voice a lot?
Yeah, no. Could you do for one of this question or another question? It's up to you.
Okay, go and do this. Answer the question in the Victor voice.
Anyone, any question.
Alright. Make it Mr.
The actual other question I have is for DM or GM, what would you advise for remembering a voice? Like not writing it down, but like you're going through doing an accent and then you just forget like what the actual accent was. Like, is there any advice for that?
The best advice I can give for remembering an NPC voice partway through is practice it. I mean, for me, it's the notes are the key. For every NPC, I have a little section next to their name, general statistics, and racial and class-based notes. I'll have vocal timbre, vocal texture, what accent or dialect I've given them, and a general attitude. That way, if they pull it out of nowhere, I can be like, oh, this guy. Right, okay. And then go into it. So that's the best use. If you have no notes and you forget, good luck. I know I don't get it right all the time either. If you try best you can, and if the players have a serious problem with, you didn't sound like that, then maybe they should start jamming their game. There's always that type too. Yeah, that's my best advice on that. The notes are helpful. Keep them nearby at all times. Right there. No, seriously, keep them right there. Questions?
What's your favorite RPG system to DM in?
man. Favorite RPG systems to be in. I mean, I'm partial to D&D just because it's what I grew up with. The newer edition's definitely one of the better ones of previous, in my opinion. I like to keep storyline and narrative as strong as combat. D&D combat is still a little classic and heavy in some cases, and not the most friendly narrative per se, but it's also a nice entry to tabletop for a lot of people that haven't had any experience. And it's like comfort food to me. Have some biscuits and gravy, D&D. It feels like home. Favorite edition right now is 5th edition. I really enjoy the 5th edition. I spent a lot of years playing 3.5. I grew up on 2nd edition, and I do not miss Tobacco one bit. It was the worst esoteric reverse math table BS ever. But it did teach you to think in strange ways. Non-Euclidean format of mathematical thought. But as far as favorite systems go, I really enjoyed the Amber Diceless role-playing game. There's a book series called Amber. It was just this kind of, it was purely narrative-driven, and whoever was jamming the game, there wasn't a dice rolls, it was just that person considering options on which side would win a challenge, which takes a very specific and experienced kind of player to do. That one was really fun. I really enjoyed that Lance, the Savage World set of Lance game. That's one of my favorite settings. It's like it's called Weird West. It's like Old West, the cowboys in the old, Western plains of America in the 1800s, except now there's ghosts and demons and undead and gunslingers. It's fun. Let's see, question here in front. Who's that?
How often do you base a character or NPC, flatteringly or unflatteringly, off someone you've met or seen, and how do you go through the process of creating that character to play?
So how often I base an NPC off somebody I actually know? Every now and then, actually. Interestingly enough, Gilmore is based partially on somebody I did a lot of theater with. One of those very just outgoing, gregarious, very eager to please whoever's in the room with his personality, in a way that you couldn't get angry at it. You're like, oh, it's Jeremy. I may not be his name. Probably is. But, yeah, so it definitely does happen. You pull from what you know, and there are certain personalities that stick out to you as very interesting people and interesting characters that you would think fit very well into a sort of campaign setting. So yeah, we pull from that all the time. Even if it's just facets, just little moments of inspiration. You muse off of somebody you just saw in public somewhere, some strange character who was, in the grocery store at 3 a.m. buying ice cream. Like, that's a weird looking fella. And he would make for a very counsel. Why not? There's no reason not to. Here's what you know. Also, it's come really handy as a voice actor. All the NPCs that I built growing up, all these voices have turned into characters that I use in auditions and booked in games and cartoons. It's been a great exercise, both improvisation and building different personalities. There's a lot of personalities in here. Follow the insanity. It's good. Who's that?
So along those lines, from your forum or your panel last night and today, it's quite obvious that you engage in a lot of different voices just in your regular everyday life.
Yes.
Is that something that you feel is foundational to you, or is that something that you do as both as an art or just as
That's an interesting question.
Because I know many of us will do voices just for fun. Where does the line become, okay, now I'm doing this as part of my craft?
When you begin to go beyond what is just a character voice and begin to really get into the meat of what drives the personality behind it. Doing funny voices and doing silly voices is a fun thing. I hear it all the time and have since I was a kid. Most of us have engaged in that thing. I can't drive without doing a scene with myself and being that crazy guy on the road. Right, look over left and someone in the other car going, and that's fine. There is a next stage though, people tell me all the time, do funny voices. I should tell people how to get a voiceover. Like, that's great. It's a great first step. there are many steps beyond that. Because as a performer, it's not about shamelessly voice. That's the last part that gets added on to it. Before that, you have to have an understanding of character and characterization. What are the driving motivations behind why a character is the way they are? What are their goals? What are they doing before the scene? Where are they going after the scene? How can you read a script and interpret the copy and what's written there without any sort of context to be able to understand what those answers to that character's personality are? And so you learn through training, through studying, through experience, how to quickly identify or at least make strong choices based on what your interpretation of that dialogue and that scene is, and then you layer a performance through that, and then the voice is the final stage, it's the icing on the cake, if you will. So that's a very, very good way to get comfortable with your own voice, which is an important thing. Reading out loud and recording yourself and listening back is a great way to get familiarized with being around your own voice and being critical and helping improve your speaking ability. And that's just in general, not just for voiceover, but just public speaking. It has so many great uses to be okay with hearing yourself talk. It's weird for everyone. It's still weird for me in many ways. But yeah, that's a small step. From that point, you have to then begin to pursue it as a performer. And there's a lot of great techniques out there for it, different paths you can take on that road. But if you ever wanted to take it to the performance step, you have to be competitive. Because you're stepping into the ring with me. You're stepping into the ring with Troy Baker. You're stepping into the ring with Gray Delisle. All these people that have been studying for 10, 20 plus years. So you want to make sure that you walk in there, not just confident, but with the tools and the experience to be able to really show your best. Or you're going to get swallowed up and see, I've been treading water for a while. Let's see, let's bounce a question. What here in front? Yes.
And what made you want to do voice acting?
We didn't want to do voice acting.
More of this all the time. This is find a way to be strange and not have people put me in this small padded room.
To answer your question, really. For me, I've always been fascinated with the idea of creating a character out of the ether, kind of plugging a personality and giving it life. And so that's what performance arts really was a draw to me. And I didn't think I was an artist when I first grew up. I remember drawing and liking to draw characters, and I initially wanted to become an animator. And it was part of that study of the human face and expression and emotion through physicality that I first discovered my interest in people, human beings, and emotion. And then I kind of got roped into auditioning for a theater production my freshman year in high school, and that was when the passion kind of transitioned. So for me, I love storytelling. Storytelling as a format, as a medium, is so fulfilling to me. And I think it's so important, and it has been culturally for as long as human beings have been around, even from a tribal standpoint. You look at the tribal elders that bring all the young children around the fire and talk about the great myths and stories of warriors of old, and the fables that formulated morality and inspired generations to be better, to want to be the next hero, the next story is told for the next generation. That storytelling format is so important to what we are as a species. It's just adapted over time into other forms of media, whether that be television, video games, radio plays, books, all kinds of great comics. It's phenomenal to see how it's evolved over the years. So to me, to be a part of any sort of storytelling engine was intrinsic to me being a happy person, even if it meant living in squalor, but still telling stories one person. That's enough for me. I just happened to find that I wanted to try the risky endeavor of becoming an actor as a living. And it was definitely fraught with a lot of difficulty, a lot of rejection, many years of I have screenshots of my bank account back in the mid-2000s, in 2007, 2008, where I'm in the negatives. And I saved JPEGs. I'm not laughing. One day I'll laugh, stuff like that. I have a whole series of that. So it's not an easy way to live, and I'm doing okay for myself now. I don't know how long that'll last. I'll write as long as I can, but as long as I've been able to take that storytelling medium and inspire somebody else in whatever format they want to continue forward, then I've done my job here on this planet, in my opinion. So my inspiration to get into voiceover was to be a storyteller, to find a way to tell other people's stories, and then through shows like Critical Role, I'm able to tell some of my own. And it's really cool. Very weird esoteric answer. I hope it was informative in some way, shape, or form. All right. it's good. You started editing for credit.
I was just wondering, I noticed that you directed and produced There Will Be Brawl. I just have two things I'd like to ask. Do you have any advice to give new aspiring directors and producers for the industry? And a lot of that show based off of Nintendo and Sega's established franchises. Did you have any problems with the companies doing this project?
Right, that's a good question. So yeah, back in 2009, I directed, produced, and performed in a web series called There Will Be Brawl. For those who haven't seen it, it's essentially kind of a live-action film noir HBO crime drama version of the Nintendo Smash Bros. Universe. Lead character is Luigi in a trench coat, some like power-ups on the side, trying to survive.
It's exactly as cool as it sounds.
It's dystopian mushroom kingdom. There's a power struggle between different mafia dons. That was like King DDD who went to the red light district. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and the comedy in the series that took itself so seriously with ridiculous costume and prosthetics. But we were very proud of it. It was my first foray into directing, and it did pretty well. Even though I made negative $4,000 on it. Once again, passion project. And most things in the web will be a passion project, because there isn't a whole lot of money yet in YouTube media, unless you can keep your budget very, very small. But it was a great learning experience for me, and I met a lot of creative people, and some of my best friends to this day I met through that project. So not every victory necessarily is about monetary gains for the project. The experience you get is the people you get to work with, the community and the rapport you build through that process, because it's a very stressful process. Any production is going to try someone's patience, if not everyone's, and so you really find people that are like-minded and passionate enough to stick through that. As far as recommendations and words of advice to people that want to direct and create their own projects, first and foremost, have a clear vision. It's easy to throw some people together and be like, oh, I'll just shoot what's out there. Sometimes that can work if you have a very improvised-based talent pool, but it's hard to get people behind you as a director unless you have a very clear way to express and get others to see what it is that you see in this project, in this property. When you have a clear idea and a clear way to describe that, other people will flock to your side and say, trust, he knows what he's doing. Even if you don't tell him that. Fake it to make it, man. That's half this whole industry. Smoke computers! Whoa! None of us know what we're doing. J.J. Abrams, you got in the room and be like, I don't know, we're Star Wars, what's going on, half of it is just being passionate, hoping nobody sees the cracks in your mirror. So once you have a clear vision, you want to find people that are like-minded and passionate and want to create something together that you can rely on. And so that will just come through experience. And there'll be faulty, promises, people that fall through, and you end up doing a lot of stuff yourself. That's part of being a director. You're the center of the tapestry, and a person falls through. It's kind of your job to find somebody who can replace them or pick up the slack yourself. It'll kill you. I throw my hat on there all from sitting too much, from editing for too long.
There was a lot of stress as well in the production of it, wasn't there?
Oh, there was a lot of stress because we had no money, and we couldn't afford permits, so we had to steal most of the shots. Like two guys on lookout by the hour being like, all right, cops are gone. Whoa. And so a lot of that circumstance, it's stressful, but once you have a clear idea and you have some like-minded people, and if you can't find people in your immediate circle that can help out, there's a lot of great online communities of people that also are creative individuals and storytellers, and people that are trying to cut their teeth and build a resume and get more experience by doing costume, prop work, looking for set design, art direction, people that want to help AD and learn lighting and sound, which are all so important. I cannot stress how important lighting and sound is on production to up the production value. It's not that big of a deal, not that expensive to rent or find equipment that can really up the level of quality. And you can have the most beautifully shot sequences with the most incredible performers and with really crappy lighting and sound. No one will stick around and watch it. You really have to put your mind on all those facets of it. And lighting in itself, that's kind of there's a whole art to it. There's an understanding of color balance, understanding warm versus cold tones, knowing the locations of what is a fill light versus what is a rim light, and how to set the mood and emotional setting of the scene just through color and light. And so every time you come across somebody who's a good grip or a good lighting specialist for a project, that's an art form in its own way. So definitely give them respect. My other big note on this, feed everybody. A lot of these productions you'll do are like, I can't pay anybody, Well, copy credit and food. I've done many things for free just because they're good ideas, good people, and they offer food. And if you lose productions, you get there to the food table and it's like a pack of Capri Sun, some Doritos, and like, yeah, man, this is really You'd be surprised how hard people will work as long as you keep them well fed. So yeah, make sure your crew and cast is fed. Make sure that you have enough food for both. Crew has to usually break down if you break for lunch, and so the cast is the first to go to the table. And if you don't have enough, and the crew has been working in the grumpy all first half of the shoot, they come off over to get some food, and it's all gone. They're not going to come to your next shoot. You'll be like, busy, I already booked something, sorry. So I just want to make sure everyone's happy and fed, and yeah. I can go on about this talk, but those are some good pointers. Find some good community nearby local productions. Pick the people going forward that really kind of gel with your style. Make sure everyone's fed. Consider lighting and sound for those core other aspects of it. And yeah, good luck. Oh, I have to go with that one. Sorry, it's personal.
You voiced a lot of highly capable characters, like Alvin, Captain Levi, 32, not a limited number. What do you think would be the most interesting hypothetical meaning of two characters that you voiced? And if it's a battle, you would win.
Oh man. An interesting conversation would probably be Leon Kennedy and Alvin Spence. Because immediately Leon would be the good guy who makes shoes, and Alvin's arm around his shoulder, like, alright, I'll come along with you, don't worry, we'll find a way around. They'll betray multiple times, and they'll be like, I already got 8 after this. I don't need another person who's constantly betraying me. But I'll give me happy eyes and like the cheesy finger gun and be like, alright, I'm not like, let's go. As far as a battle, it was like a battle royale, all the characters that I voiced. It would be a tough fight. And I think all of them would come to some sort of stalemate, it would be a few would fall, it would be this intense battle, and then they'd all be sniped in the head. And at a far off distant clock tower, could you see the cigarette? No. Everyone else is a little too honorable, a little more upfront and personal. He prefers to let them work their way out and then underhandedly take them out from a distance where he isn't no real danger. So I give it to you two. Alright, in the way back, the Red Star.
As Dan, how would you encourage players to do their own things and brand themselves to engage more with other characters?
So as a GM, how would you get players that tend to split off from the party and do their own thing? To return? I mean, players will do what they want to do. If it's detrimental to the overall experience, if you find that partly through your gaming session that the other players are having a hard time being interested or engaged in what's going on, if it's really hindering your narrative, talk them out of the game. Have a conversation and be like, hey man, I'm not trying to tell you how to play your game, just so you know, you want to try to keep this a group experience, and it's okay if you do your things on the side, but do your best to try to keep them succinct so you can spend a lot of the story focused on the adventure and the party together. You don't want to tell them don't do it, because sometimes those little character side moments can be really great storytelling gems. But if it becomes a constant thing and you get the sensation it's more based on selfish interests than wanting to drive the character's narrative occasionally, then just have a conversation with them and ask them if they can just be more conscious of that going forward. If they're not receptive to that, then, well, maybe their style of gaming isn't for your gaming table, and they can go find a group elsewhere, or, see how long it stands until players end up trying to hide the other character's body. First and foremost, and I find in a lot of games, there's just kind of this feel people will have reservations about mentioning these sort of complaints they have with the way the game's going. Be open about it. If you are having a problem with another player in the game, talk to the other player about it after the game, and totally respectful, like, hey man, just so you know, what you did, this thing kind of took me off a little bit, here's why, nothing huge. Going forward, it'd be cool if we could be a little more of a collaboration here. Or conversely, talk to your GM or your DM if they're doing something that's kind of bothering you. And as a GM or as a player, be open to criticism from other people as well, as long as it's not them waiting for you to part after going like, hey, don't cut my road. That probably won't go very well. So yeah, just openness and conversation, really. My biggest suggestion. And way over in this corner, good.
So as a DM, how often do you find yourself fudging dice or wanting to fudge dice to stick to the narrative vision that you have for the particular game you're playing?
Right. I mean, you always have certain outcomes that you want to occur in a game because it make more sense for the narrative, and you're welcome to do that. As the DM, the DM screen players don't know, but at the same time, part of what's fun about the game, at least for me, is the fact that ultimately when it comes down to it, it is the luck of the draw, it is the luck of the dice that rules the choices. And so, yeah, you're welcome to do that. There are GMs that do that. Don't tell anyone you do that. Keep that to yourself. For me, though, part of what's difficult for me as a GM is not having control. I create the circumstances and then fate decides how things work out. So, even if there were circumstances where a narrative might have made better sense for a circumstance, or maybe made for a cool sequence, the moment that I give into that urge and overwrite what the dice said it would be, the game becomes almost too pre-written for me in my own head. And then, even though the players may not know, and that kind of detracts from my fun a little bit. Not the same for everyone, by all means, that's the thing, go for it. But for me, I like that aspect, that even as much control as I have in the game, there's even modicum of control that I don't have, and we all have to abide by that, so. I'm a big fan of letting the dice as it led. It's led to a couple of missed possible opportunities in the story, sure, but that's why I know playing games.
Let's see. Okay, Zachary.
If you were in the last airbender or Legend of Korra, where would you be from and what kind of bender would you be?
So if I was the role of Avatar, Legend of Korra, where would I be from and what bender would I be? Oh man. I'd be a waterbender, most likely, just by temperament. I've never told this before. I'd like to live in Boston, say, because it's just a cool looking giant city. Big walls. I like the general feel of it. Even though for the most part, aside from Boomy, most of the rewards there are any kind of tools. Boomy's pretty great. But from temperament wise, I'd definitely be a waterbender. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. That's fine. All of things. Water or air, maybe. Oh no. I'm questioning myself. Let's some more questions up here. You said.
What was it like working with Blizzard? Were you afraid of basing the character like McCree too much on Blizzard?
Working with Blizzard is an absolute pleasure. They're a great company, and they're very, very about collaboration between creative types. So a lot of projects you walk in as the actor, and you're the hired talent, and you just read the scripts. Welcome, Monkey. Take your check and go. Thankfully, that's not too often. Blizzard is definitely a collaborative atmosphere, and I had the opportunity to go on campus multiple times and meet a lot of different creative teams on different games I've worked on for them, and they're just good people. It's a great atmosphere there. So I love working with them. McCree for Overwatch, there wasn't a worry about basing too much on Vinny's with. I think it was a direct nod to his cinematic characters. But for the initial audition, I went full Vinny's with. It was too much. They actually didn't have the names callbacks originally for the character. An audition, with an actual pen in my key. Going real rotary. That wasn't a callback for it. But Andrea, who's the voice director for most Blizzard stuff, had worked with me a bunch, and she knew that I could, if I had more direction, knew what they wanted from me. So they don't give you a lot of information from these auditions sometimes. She knew that I could give a better performance and kind of get to where they wanted. So she specifically told them, I know these are your choices for the callback. Trust me, bring Mercer in for you. And so I owe her that tremendously. Then I went in and we had more dialogue, they gave me more of a feel for what they were looking for the character. They wanted to be a little less hardcore, a little more swagger, a little more playful in his, lonely one-man gunslinger type mentality, and apparently they liked it, because they used me. And Overwatch is awesome. I'm so excited for the game comes out, guys. Oh my god. I'm not a huge first-person shooter fan, even team-based stuff. For me, it's not my genre. I'm an RPG guy. But Overwatch is so much fun. has much better, elementary and so many variations of character play. So I was turning into Overwatch fan panel, guys. Good question. There's Tom. Tom. I do have a signing after this, by the way. Both me and Mercer are going to be signing after this, so I'm not sure there if you have anything in particular you want to present. I'll see if I can get through a bunch of questions here pretty rapidly, so be quick answers. We'll start over here. Yes?
On the character of Levi, I personally love the character, but I've met lots of people that just don't like him at all, just because they think he's void of emotion, he's violent, and doesn't really care. I want to know what's your opinion on Levi as a person?
It's a great question. So, Levi, he's divisive for many of those reasons. I think, if I don't follow over, I think Levi's a much deeper character than the surface reveals. He puts himself off definitely as this kind of vulgar, cold, one-note type individual that's unchanged by the world around him. But I think that's a very surface look at it. If you look at where he's come from, how he's touted as like the one strong rock for humanity. He's this kind of little pebble of hope that everyone looks up to. As long as Levi is the unemotional badass that just kills titans and is unaffected by the darkness around him, we'll be okay. And I think he's aware of that. I think he knows, and you see a lot of times, especially people looking up to him and telling him how great he is, he's just like, you can see the weight on his shoulders. And there's a part of him that probably doesn't want that. And you can see also like his squad has a rough day. There are moments where you get to peek behind that facade that he's had to construct and mold for the rest of everyone else's sake. You can see the pain, you can see the hurt, and he has to just swallow it all. He can't show it, because if he shows any cracks in his in that facade, everyone else is going to crumble. If the strongest one out there is breaking, what hope do we have as a people? And so for me, I think there's a lot more subtleties in it. I try to bring across some performance, and hopefully in the future we'll have more opportunities to do so as the story progresses. But yeah, I think he was much deeper character than we credit for. I mean, everyone's liable to have their opinion, and that's totally fine, and I understand that. But I think he's more than that person. 5 minutes, alright. I'll ask those questions that sort of cruising across, I'll let you speak. You sir.
What was DMing for Vin Diesel like, and what do you think of Ireland compared to LA?
Okay. DMing for Vin Diesel's phenomenal and weird and surreal. Those haven't seen it, look at DM Diesel on YouTube. I had the opportunity to run into Dungeons and Dragons for Vin Diesel back in October. It was phenomenal. He turned into a big, muscly girl and was just so excited to work with. He was such a nice guy. I was hoping, whenever you meet somebody on that degree of international now, and you're always waiting for the beach to complete tool bag. And he was warm and friendly and totally into it, so I had a great time. What do I think of Ireland versus LA? Ireland has much better weather, in my opinion. In my opinion, I like gray skies and rain. I always have, and I always will. My favorite mornings are ones to wake up to the sound of rain outside and see the clouds. So I love the weather here. I know you guys know. Look, it's snow in LA. LA, it's always like 90 degrees. It gets real boring, real fast. Trust me. Unless you live in the valley and the air conditioning doesn't work. Grass is always weird. But no, I really like everyone's been so friendly and so welcoming, and LA, while it does have very friendly and welcoming people, also has a little things that they are. So, no, I'm absolutely loving it here, so I'm excited. You guys were set to have some. Thank you.
In the video game Danganronpa Another Episode, you were the voice actor for Haiji Toa. How did your opinions on him start off, and throughout the story, did they change in any way?
Okay, so Haiji Toa, in Danganronpa, he changed a lot. His whole arc was great. I won't say too spoilery, but he starts off this very kind of low-key, one of the few adults in the room type personalities, and this kind of mysterious character that goes kind of crazy and over the top as it progresses. And so for me, it was fun to kind of explore that as it happens. I didn't know who was going to go that route, so they didn't tell me in advance. By the way, by the end of the game, you go crazy. I'm like, all right. It just suddenly happened in the story, and I got to kind of go through it with him. So that was really cool as an actor to kind of ride that line as it happened. So yeah, it was fun. Cool. Next question. Good.
To work in the games industry, and the games industry is
kind of notorious for crunch time. Is the same true of voicing in games? Is it getting better or worse?
You don't feel crunch too heavily on the voiceover side, other than the fact that there'll be maybe last minute like, okay, so we need to book you for all these days in a row, so we totally forgot to book you, and we have to have this done in a week. So can you make it? And it's hard to schedule around. So it can be a little frustrating in that regard, but it's nowhere near how the crunch time is on the development side. I actually worked on the dev side for years before I became an actor, so I worked on both sides of the fence. And I don't miss that side of the crunch very much. Working 80, 90-hour weeks on salary without overtime for months and months and months on end. So each side has its glamour and non-glamour. Trust me. I have a lot of friends who work on the dev side, and I'm really excited and really proud of the things they've accomplished. But there are periods of time in every game production cycle where you can see it take a real toll on everybody. So be prepared, and hopefully maybe people will have the opportunity to rise up and maybe unionize in the future. Tell the publishers like, oh, we can't do this anymore. Oh, we'll see. Let's see. You said.
This is kind of an extension on the question you were asked earlier about how did you know you wanted to be a voice actor? And so when you went to the theater, were you aiming to get to the stage where you would be voice acting, or did it just kind of happen organically?
It more happened organically. I always had an interest in the idea of it. I grew up watching a lot of cartoons anyway, so I was like, that's a cool thing. People actually make these voices, And I love Mel Blanc, who did all the original Merry melodies, voiced pretty much every Warner Brothers character out there. So I already had a fascination with it, but I never considered it an actual viable career option. And then as time progressed, I managed to meet people who worked in the industry and got a little taste of it. And it was just enough for me to be like, okay, let me try really hard for this. And if it doesn't work, then at least I know I tried and I can move on without any regrets. If it does work out, then cool. And so far, so good. I put a minute. Alright, wait up. Favorite voice role so far? Tough question. Probably gonna go with Leon Kennedy just because of how much he means to me as a character and his thing kind of Resident Evil franchise from the beginning. We'll have to go with Leon. For now. We'll see if that changes the sun goes up. Alright, who's it?
Hi, is it true you have a photo of my son in your wallet?
Do I have a what?
I have a photo of my son in your wallet.
Always.
Okay, old sci-fi meeting.
Alright, so we get a couple more questions here. Yes? This is a little longer for questions. This is the last one on the panel. I apologize. At the beginning of the panel, you can ask more questions. Alvin is one of my favorite characters in the game because he has such a unique arc. He starts off this very kind of, for lack of a better term, he's got a swagger to him. He's charismatic. He has that kind of lovable jerk mentality, and he repeatedly turns tail and is traitorous against your main guys, and then comes on back like, hey, we're cool, right? So for his arc, what was cool was discovering how much hurt he had inside himself in his own past, and kind of the reason he did things he did, selfishly as they were, there were good, noble reasons behind a lot of it as far as he was concerned. And so being able to play through his arc and get to learn more about his past as part of his own story was a really, really cool acting exercise for me. And I was so glad they ended up going forward with the sequel because you get to go even further in depth as to why he is the way he is and see the lessons he learned from the first game have transitioned and made him a very different man in the second. And what his personal goals are and his direction in life from that point forward. And then you get to see even more of the tragedy that's kind of set him on his paths. So I had a blast with Alvin, and I was excited to make a sequel, and I was sad that they ended there. So I'm hoping maybe some point in the future will be a reason for the Alvin cameo and something else. Except for the Alvin again. Question. Alright, that's time on my panel. We are going to our signing now, guys. Both me and Rochelle will be signing for the next hour and a half, however it takes to try and get as many people as possible. Thank you all so much for coming.